Okay, so we are through the basics of making walls, putting openings in walls, and now we need to get a little bit further into detail and look at filling in those holes with geometry to start representing doors, windows, things like that, which is also going to get us a little bit into one of the tools in FormIt called grouping, just to make things a little bit easier to work with. Cool. So I also wanted to make a slightly more complicated shape as an opening, just to kind of see how all these things work as well. So just to repeat those steps a little bit, let's make a 3-foot high sill, 6-foot window. We'll start it as 5 feet high, and then I'm going to delete that guide, and let's put a small arch on top. So I'm going to use a 3-pointed arc just to do that, and then delete this extra line, and then we'll push-pull that through the wall to create that as an opening. Cool, so something else to kind of work through. So let's just look at filling in both of these. I'll go kind of step by step through this rough opening, and then we will look at repeating those steps one more time with this slightly more complicated shape. So the first thing that I like to do with this is group these walls together. And I shouldn't say this wall and this wall, but this set of chained walls together. The reason being, if I come in and start adding some geometry to this, that geometry, this piece, is now really stuck to that wall. And I really want this window, if I'm putting something into that opening, I want that window to actually be part of its own set. So if I select that window, it's not selecting all of the walls. It is only selecting the window. So let me undo, back out of this. So the method that FormIt uses to do this is essentially putting things into groups. To do that, I'm going to, let's zoom out so we can see everything happening here at once. I'm going to double click on this set of walls. Then I'm going to right click and group. Right up here in my properties, people don't often do this, but it's a good habit. Let's just name these, oh heavens, what happened? Select that group again, level 1 walls, something like that. So that is ready to go. So now let's look at the difference here. If I make another piece of geometry to go over that, that's sort of the starting point of my window system here. If I select this, it's still going to create the geometry for me. But if I select this, it's only selecting that window. So this is a much better way to begin working with the geometry. Okay, so let's select that and delete it. So to put this window frame in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pencil tool. And I'm just using, in this case, I'm just using the draw rectangle tool right here. I'm just going to go top to bottom. Next, I'm going to select that polygon, right click, and I'm going to use offset. So this simply builds an offset in one direction or another. So we want to do that to the inside. I'm going to hit the tab key, and let's make that a 4-inch thick mullion. So now I really have two pieces of geometry. I have the outer edge of the geometry that's going to represent my mullion, and this inside piece. Cool. So I'm going to take that and delete it. That's gone now, and you can see I have this sort of two-dimensional plane that represents what the window mullion is going to be. So I'm going to take that and use push-pull, and let's make that about 6 inches deep. Then I can double-click it, and let's move it back a few inches into the wall so that I have a little bit of that revealed edge. Next, I can do the same thing to create the glass. So I'm going to double click on this, turn it into a group, and I'm going to name that group Window Mullion. So that is a piece unto itself now. And I can do another quick box right here. And I'm going to push this back first just so you can kind of see what's happening. It's going to be really thin. Let's just do about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to double click on it and slide that back into the mullion. Again, just a little bit. I'm looking at this from the outside, by the way. So all of those things are more exaggerated on the inside. You usually have a larger windowsill on the inside than the outside. But now I need to go ahead and double click that glass again. Make it a group. Just call it glass. And now I can actually select both of those, the glass and the window mullions, and we can group those together as well. And I can call that window 1. All right, so at this point, I've got a group for the walls, I've got a group for the windows, but they all look the same. So this is where we get a little bit into materials inside of FormIt to help clarify what is what. So that's the next tab down, my materials tab. I'm going to add a new material. Let's call this one glass. So we're going to make that a little bit transparent, and we're going to make it a little bit blue, because for some reason in architecture we always think glass is a little bit blue. I'm not really sure why that is, but we like it. So it's going to be sort of this nice soft blue color. See that right here. I'm not worried about the scale. I don't have any texture maps or anything on this. It is simply a color and a transparency. So if I wanted to, I could add it just a little bit of gloss. So what you're going to see with that is it adds just a little bit of sheen based on the angle. I'm not going to worry about any reflections, anything like that for right now. This is just, the gloss is just enough to make it pop and then also not be demanding on the computer. So to add this in, right now, if I were to paint this, it's going to paint everything in that group. So it did the window mullion and the window. So what I need to do is I need to get inside of that group in order to add that material. So just a quick undo. So to get into this group to edit it, I'm just going to double click. And now I can click either the window or the window frame or the window mullion. So now I can add glass to that. So let's add one new material. We'll call this wood. Again, I'm not really concerned about a texture map or anything like that right now. We're just trying to get some base colors together so that I can begin to see, representations of these different materials. Let's do one more, and let's call this wall. And let's give the wall just a little bit more of a warm, I don't really want pink. Let's go just sort of a warm red tone. Wow, I said I didn't want pink, I made it even more pink. There we go. Sort of a nice warm clay color for the wall. All right, so we're beginning to see that come together now. Okay, so I'm going to buzz through that process one more time with this slightly more complicated window. And we'll go sort of fast on this. So line tool on this one, I'm just going to trace out these edges to build that base piece of geometry. I'm going to add the arc. I'm going to delete the center line. We'll create that as a slight extrusion. And then we'll push that into the wall. You know, I'm doing this in a slightly different order this time. Let me undo that. I should be consistent. When you've done this stuff for a while, you have a tendency to just kind of fiddle around and build things different ways. Let me build this the exact same method here. Line tool. Come on, Dave. Line tool. Trace these things around. Close that off. Build the arc. Delete that piece. What I skipped last time, I did the offset first, right? So tab, 6 inches. Delete the middle portion. Push, pull. Not that much. Move that in. I believe last time I did that only 4 inches. Yeah, I did. That's okay. You guys can forgive me. I'm not going to make you watch me do that again. Okay, at this point, I want to go ahead and group that window frame. Group. I'm being a little bit more of a slop artist this time, as mentioned. Not naming the groups. You should totally name the groups. Didn't name the groups. Very small in push, about 1 inch. We'll paint that entire piece glass. Group it and slide it in a bit. And that begins the process of getting those openings filled in. The door is pretty much the same thing. You've got a door frame and a door jamb in the door, but you're going to use almost the exact same steps in terms of putting those together.